Alright, so I have to stand on these dots. We're out of the way, so this is very fancy. So thank you so much for coming. My name is Andy Weingart. I am a Chagrin Falls alum, class of '96. I have 2 kids in the district and 1 still in preschool, a 3rd grader and a 2nd grader. And loved being in the Chagrin Falls schools, love the fact that my kids are here, and want to make sure that everyone else's children have the same opportunities that I did growing up. As Liz mentioned, I'm one of 3 community volunteers leading this effort, and we need all 3 of us to make this work. It's a huge undertaking, and we really appreciate everybody being here and learning more about the levy. Tonight we're going to talk about a number of things, but some of our goals that we're going to have are to, number 1, explain why public school districts in Ohio have to rely on their local communities for funding. We're also going to give you an overview of how the district is performing. We're going to talk about why the option that we're presenting is the most fiscally responsible and comprehensive for the district. We're going to give you specifics with regards to the revitalization of the intermediate school and also the new construction, and then answer any questions that you have. So as many of you have probably seen, One Vote Chagrin, this is our logo for our campaign this year. And we picked this because we felt that One Chagrin signifies our community. It seems that whenever there is a pressing need with people in Chagrin, that people come together. Whether it's a family that loses everything for a fire, a community member that has a sick child, or a local business that needs help that might not be doing too well, everyone seems to rally around a cause. And this is no different. This effort that we're putting forth will have a dramatic impact on all of us for a number of years going forward. And we feel that it's tremendously important that the community gets behind it and supports it, because it really affects all of us. So starting with the historical perspective of where we've been as a community with regards to passing operating levies. Back in 2012, the district passed a 7.9 mil operating levy, promising to remain off the ballot for 4 years. So if you do the math, we're in 2017. We've extended that levy 1 additional year. During this process, the district in-depth researched facility needs in our community and wanted to address specifically those items at the intermediate school that addressed climate, security, and educational needs. Also, in doing so, they were able to work with our state representative to obtain a cultural facilities grant that will completely revitalize and renovate the intermediate school auditorium. And I'm going to go into more depth on all of those issues in the program as we go through. So what's the ballot issue going to look like in May? We're going to have an 8.9 mil combined levy. We have an operating side and a bond side. The operating side consists of 5.5 mils, which will fund the ongoing operations in the district. Things like teacher salaries, benefits, technology upgrades, and permanent improvement transfer to maintain all of our buildings at a more proper level going forward. And then also the bond issue, that's a 3.4 mil issue. It's going to fund the complete renovation and new construction at the intermediate school. This is going to cost the taxpayer $26 per month per $100,000 of appraised value. And it's a little bit confusing here because on your tax bill they call it market value. So if you do the math, that's $312 annually per $100,000 of appraised value. And the collections will begin in January of 2018. So starting with the operational side, here's a little bit of the overview. All school districts in the state of Ohio are faced with the same problem. House Bill 920 that was passed back in the late 70s restricts the dollar growth in real estate taxes. So a school district can pass a levy for a specific dollar amount, but as property values will rise, the school district does not receive additional funds. Therefore, during the course of a levy cycle, the school district's expenses will eventually exceed their revenues, and forcing the district to come back for the community in approximately every 4 years to look for some more help. Our school district expects funding from the state of Ohio to remain flat. we're looked at more of a higher value school district, and they want to give more state funding to districts they feel that are more in need. It's just the situation that we're in. Also, expenditures have increased over time with our school district. Things like increases in health care, expectations in new programming that we want to offer our children, and also unexpected maintenance or repairs, things like a roof leak or a new refrigerator for the kitchen. Some of those things come up, we have to take care of those issues. This mismatch of flat revenue and increased expenses causes all school districts in Ohio to ask their voters for tax levies. And this graph really gives a great explanation of why communities have to talk to their voters about passing a levy. So if you look at the beginning of a levy cycle, which would be seen on the left side of the graph at part 0, if a levy gets passed, oops, sorry about that, oops, there we go, wrong button, okay, here we are. So the beginning of the levy cycle is here, and the money comes in and revenues are higher than expenses. And across the 4 years, eventually the expenses will cross over the revenue and eventually exceed them, forcing the school district to have to come back to the voters and ask for more funds. So if you're new to the district or you've never voted in an Ohio election, this is something that every school district in Ohio is faced with, this funding problem because of House Bill 920. So our funding dilemma in Chagrin Falls is unique. Because we have a very limited industrial commercial tax base, 76% of our funding comes from local real estate. 76%, it's a huge amount. All of the residents support the majority of the revenue stream for our school district. So how does the school district spend their money? Well, we have to invest highly in our teachers and our staff. 80% of our costs are salaries and benefits. It's a people business. It's very different from my business where all of my money is tied up in my inventory. Or if you're in a steel business, all of your money is tied up in your production and your raw materials. Chagrin is unique, school districts are unique. You have to have highly qualified individuals to educate their children, which we have at Chagrin. So this is really a neat slide that talks about the average teacher's salaries across the 37 school districts in Northeast Ohio, Cuyahoga, and Geauga counties. Chagrin Falls is pretty much right in the middle with the average teacher's salary. If you can see, Chagrin is in orange, and the average teacher's salary is in green, just to the left of that. We pay our teachers, we think, an average amount, just actually under a little bit average amount, but look at what they're able to accomplish with the results. Another great point to mention is that Chagrin Falls teachers average 21 years. In one of the presentations I've done a few weeks ago, we had someone in the audience who was a teacher that mentioned that she was teaching at Mayfield and decided to come to Chagrin and took a pay cut. And she was very happy with her choice because she felt that it was a better fit for her, and she was willing to come to Chagrin because the kids were so great, because the community was so great. We've got great teachers. So, a comprehensive, fiscally responsible solution. As I mentioned earlier, the school district exceeded its last expectations by extending the last levy an additional year. They told us they were going to extend it to one more year. We're 2017. We're back asking for our help. How did we do it? Well, different cost-saving measures. Things like retirement incentives for teachers that had been in the district for a while. Bond refinancing that saved the community almost $2 million over the life of the bond. Personnel cost savings and staff restructuring. If a staff member that retired had a full-time position, we looked at hiring 2 part-time people to fill that spot. Another great point to point out are the almost $2.5 million of grant funding that the district has obtained in the last few years. Straight A fund grant, $640,000. That had to do a lot with the one-to-one computing that you see a lot of our students taking part in now. and the cultural facilities grant for $600,000 that I mentioned a little bit earlier. We'll talk a little bit more about that. That has a direct impact on the plan that we're going to talk about tonight. Not to forget our support organizations, but they have raised for the district $760,000 since 2012. That's incredible. So if you add the $2.4 million and $760,000, we're over $3 million. That's well over 1 mil of a levy cycle that the school district would be forced to approach the community to ask if that funding and that support wasn't there. We've got great organizations like Dad's Club, Boosters Club, Education Foundation that are willing to do whatever they can for the teachers and the students that make Chagrin such a wonderful place. So one of the things we can measure the success of our district and how fiscally responsible are is what we spend on average per student. Chagrin ranks pretty much dead in the middle. About $13,000 we spend on average for our students. School districts right next to us, Orange, top in the area, over $21,000. We obviously don't have that luxury of having some of that commercial and industrial tax base that they do. And Chagrin can do a lot with that $13,000 if you look at how well academically our students do and how outstanding our teachers are. So our tax base, how does our tax base compare with other districts? As you can see, Chagrin is a little bit higher than 50% of the average, but one thing to point out about this chart is that as other districts pass levies, they will pass our number, and then we sort of settle back down, and then other districts pass and we sort of settle back down. So when different levy cycles come up to vote, those districts generally will pass the other ones, and then Chagrin sort of settles back down. But this is where we fall as a community in comparison to other school districts in the area with our tax rate. So we talked about teaching, excellence in teaching. A lot of people have seen the Chagrin Falls framework, the mission statement, maximizing potential through personalized learning. This is really the goal of the district to sort of go away from the state standardized push that's come from Columbus and really focus on trying to give each student a personalized education and maximize their potential. So how does our district provide excellent education? There's been a lot of confusion from the state lately about how we measure success. The last 3 years, the state has changed the report card, and they've also changed standardized testing. This most recent graph, if you will, chart, has just come out as a result of Senate Bill 3 to measure high-performing school districts in the state of Ohio. As you can see, Chagrin Falls is one of the top 18 districts is ranked by the state. Top 18. So that's how the district has been doing. How about how have our students been doing? Some really neat things to point out on this slide are that Chagrin Falls has increased the number of AP tests that they offer at the high school level to over 700. Now I mentioned I was a graduate of Chagrin a little more than 20 years ago, and I think when I graduated we might have had 50 AP tests offered. Now we have over 700. One great point about that is that our district was recognized by the AP honor roll as being only one of 433 schools in the United States and Canada for participation and achievement. Not only are we offering these tests, but our kids are passing and doing very well on them. And that's something we can be very proud of. Also this past year we had 2 students that earned perfect ACT scores. And if you see in the bottom of this chart, sort of point out our high-achieving college entrance exam scores. Our students are scoring higher on average from the state level and the national level on the ACT and all 3 parts of our SAT. We've got fantastic kids. Our teachers continue to grow their capacity. There's a number of things that we can be proud of that they're doing. 84% of our teachers hold master's degrees or higher, and now Chagrin Falls has a staff that's 100% Google certified. And to give you an example of how rare and unique that is, Chagrin Falls is now the only school district, public school district in the world to have that accreditation. There's no other school district in the world that can say they are 100% Google certified. And I think that's really special because as I've been working on these presentations over the past few weeks, I have a second grader that's looked over my shoulder and told me that I was doing things wrong on Google Slides because I wasn't exactly sure how to use it. So I think that's pretty neat. So this is also a really neat slide that shows some of the high-performing schools, four-year colleges and universities that our students are going to. There's a lot of fantastic names on this list. Chagrin continues to expect high things from their students, and this is showing that they're meeting those expectations. So we're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about the facilities side. Why the plan that we're presenting is the most fiscally responsible for our community. So some of you may know that the process that the district has gone through has been very extensive. We're coming up on a 4-year timetable from the starting of approaching the community, asking them for a survey of their opinions, looking at many different sites, considering different school sizes, different options, different sites in our community, visiting with Architectural Review Board a number of times, going out and asking for the community's help in the form of a facilities committee, and bringing a plan that the district and the administration can feel very comfortable that they've really crossed all their T's, dotted all their I's, and can feel that they're presenting the best fiscally responsible solution for our community and our kids moving forward. So as I mentioned, the facilities committee, you might recognize some of the names on this list. It might be your neighbors, might be colleagues you've known, friends in your community, but these people volunteered their time that are professionals in their different fields to look at the plan that the school was going to present to the community and say, is this right? Should we really be paying this much to have this building be in this spot? Is there a way we could look at this differently and save a little bit of money over here? We had someone from the Cleveland Clinic that looks at managing all of their properties, look at how much Chagrin spends annually on maintaining their buildings. They estimated Chagrin should be spending almost $3 million a year. We spend $400,000. They couldn't believe the condition of our facilities were that wonderful, spending $400,000. Part of this process allowed us to look at that spend and address what is a more appropriate number that we should be investing into our buildings going forward to maintain them at a higher level. The need is real. The Phil Mathian School is over 100 years old. It is the building in our district that has the most pressing needs, and the plan that we are presenting addresses safety, security, and climate issues in the entire building. How wonderful it will be when that building is air conditioned. Teachers and students will be doing cartwheels in the hallway. We're creating a brand new educational space that takes into consideration the needs of children now and moving forward. We're retaining our community assets, the historical part of the building that the Architectural Review Board decided that were important to keep intact, and respects the historical significance of the site and allowing the kids to access the town. That's been such an important part of that school for a long time. So something that's really special about this plan is the cultural facilities grant that we were able to obtain with our state representative, bringing $600,000 into this project, allows our community arts partners to access the building after hours. So groups like the Valley Arts Center, the Film Fest, the Historical Society will all be able to use different spaces in the building to help grow their programming, to help let more people know who they are, to maybe give viewings for movies that they can't show at their facility, or offer classes that they might not have the room to do at their different spot. This building, once it's completed, truly becomes a community asset that everyone will have the ability to take advantage of, not just the students. So the historically significant parts of the Phil Mathian School that were going to be preserved and maintained. Many of you may recognize different pictures here, but I'm just going to point them out. We have the 1914 wing in the upper left-hand corner. And we have the auditorium in the middle and the upper right-hand corner, and then we have the gymnasium on the lower right. All these parts of the building will be preserved, renovated, and brought to a wonderful condition after the completion of the project. Also, current systems in the building will be updated. I'm sure a lot of people here know or have heard we have an outdated heating system. We have plumbing that is not conducive for a learning environment. We have classrooms that are too small. We have a handicap system that forces children to go to the exterior of the building to access certain levels of that of their classrooms. And then we have a building envelope that is out of date. So this slide, the next few slides are going to give you a bird's eye view of what the building will look like when it's completed. And the yellow portion of this slide is going to show you the historical parts of the building that are going to be retained. And the blue is going to show you the new construction. So the 1914 wing is all the way on the left-hand side, the gymnasium and the auditorium. And one thing I want to point out is the front of the auditorium, which now is parking lot, will become the cafeteria. And what's really nice about this, number one, is that now the food service delivery is all on one level, which makes everybody a lot happier that's works in that part. But also that we now have the ability to have pre-event and post-event opportunities in that part of the cafeteria. So if there's a play or a movie or a performance in the auditorium, that group could have a wine or cheese in the cafeteria before or after, in order to not send people out to our community, but to be able to keep people there and entertain them before or after. And then behind the auditorium, this is the grade level area. We have room for 6 sections with the ability to add a 7th section if needed, if we have a larger class. And then in the middle, outside of the classrooms, we have a media area that the grade levels will be able to access for expanded learning opportunities outside of their individual classes. 2 classes want to work together, 3 classes want to work together. They have that space. As many of you know, in this 1914 wing, this is where the office is now. The office now moves into the area where the locker rooms are, and all becomes on a first level access. This is the second level. So if the bottom level was grade 4, this blue area becomes grade 5, stacked right on top. Again, 6 sections with the media space in the middle, and the second floor of the 1914 wing comes some art classes, some language classes, and some STEM education areas. And then level 3, grade 6 on top of grade 5, the 6 sections. We have music, vocal, strings, and some swing space. Really a neat concept. So we're going to show you some pictures and some renderings of what the exterior of the building is now, and what we've had some people look at it, what we hope it might turn out to be in the future when this is done. So everyone has seen this picture, I'm assuming. This is the exterior of the intermediate school, and this is a rendering of what that could look like upon completion. We have the cafeteria on the outside, the remaining auditorium with the historic cupola on top. Again, the auditorium, a view inside of the cafeteria, which would again be the pre-event or post-event space. This is the exterior of the 1914 wing. This is the gymnasium on the right, 1914 wing here on the left, and this is a rendering of what that might look like upon completion. Now, I want to just let everybody know that this has to be vetted with the Architectural Review Board, design people, a lot of community input. There are many chances for this to change going forward, but this is just this is just a rendering of what that could look like. So this is the rear of the building. If you were standing maybe looking from Federated Church, looking at the back of the building, this is what the back of the building would look like now. The Parking that used to be in the back is now gone and is replaced on the front side of the building, and this becomes a green space play area where the students will have much more room than they have right now to access during free time. As many of you know, there is a driveway connecting the school to the Federated Church. That will most likely go away with a stairway going in to continue that relationship for access for parking, but this back side of the building will be enclosed. This is neat. This is that media center that I was explaining to everyone that will be present on each grade level floor. So we've got the 6 classrooms you can see in the picture, and the common area space in the middle, with grade level reading material, and then the opportunity for between class collaboration. So obviously during this project we have to put our students in appropriate classrooms during this transformation. So this has been an exhaustive process that many different sites have been looked at, options at the Gurney campus, options at this campus, and also had a consideration to do something at the Family Life Center on 306. The school board has recently committed to having the swing space be on the high school campus. This will be needed for about 2 years. We're hoping it's a little bit closer to 18 months, but most likely it's going to be 2 years. And this will affect students currently in grades 2 through 5. So I mentioned the school board identifying most likely the space will be here at this campus. This is a picture of where that swing space has been identified that it most likely will be now. If you can imagine, this is the track, this is the stadium, and these are the tennis courts outside of where we are right now in the parking lot right behind us. So the idea is to have the swing space modular classrooms on some of the tennis courts and then also part of the parking lot. So we're going to leave 2 of the tennis courts available for the rec center to use, also for phys ed to use, be able to have at least some form of tennis during the school year. And one thing to point out, a number of things to point out about these temporary classrooms, they're not your classroom trailers that many of us might think of that students would be in. All of them have windows, all of them have appropriate lighting, all of them have hallways with lockers, bathrooms. They're wonderful, wonderful units. And we're going to show you what they look like. Our staff had the opportunity to visit Cleveland Heights, University Heights during their process, their major work that they're doing down there, and look at some of the modular swing space that they're using. And they're wonderful units. In fact, we had a teacher at a presentation earlier this week speak up and say that she taught in a modular classroom for 3 years, and she said it was much better than teaching in a classroom in her school. A lot of our kids and teachers would absolutely be tickled pink to be learning in these classrooms for the time that they're there. So we're not shortchanging anyone by having them be in those units. So what does the project cost? We've got soft and hard costs of roughly $29.6 million. We've got a swing space allowance for about $2.5 million. If we back out the cultural facilities grant of $600,000, that brings us to a total cost of about $31.5 million. The one thing to point out is the renovated space of the intermediate school becomes 35,000 square feet. New build becomes 54,000 square feet. So we're building significantly more than we're renovating, for a total of the project being about 89,000 square feet, which is just about the same as where it is right now. Construction schedule is roughly 20 to 24 months. They could possibly be a little bit more aggressive and say 18, but people that have built houses or have done remodeling know it always takes longer than they say it will. So that brings us to why are we going to have this be a combined issue on the ballot? Why not offer voters the opportunity to vote yes or no for a bond issue and yes or no for an operating issue? Well, the truth is that operational costs are directly interrelated with maintenance of facilities. And the reason that is because new buildings require less of an operational cost to maintain than 102-year-old buildings do. So we have the foresight to believe that it's one vote. We need both things. We want our voters to vote that both the operational side and the bond side are equally important. Also, if we had offered the ability to have two different votes, we would run the risk of one passing and one failing. For example, if the bond issue would pass, then we would say, okay, that's less millage, I'm going to support that. We're going to have a new school, but then our operational doesn't pass, then we run the risk of having a brand new school and not being able to provide programming or staff in order to fill it. So that's why we feel it's an important issue to have both combined, one vote for this measure. So for 1 mil more, we're asking 1 mil more. Our usual ask is 7.9. This issue, we're asking 8.9. So what do we get for that 1 mil more? We provide our students with an excellent education, continuing the level of programming that we all expect, community and students expect to have. We completely rehabilitate our oldest building in the district, maintaining the historically significant parts of that and building brand new educational space, and also addressing the long-term maintenance issues in all of our buildings going forward. As I mentioned earlier, our permanent improvement outlay now goes from $400,000 to almost $1.2 million. And there's a number of projects that have already been identified for long-term improvements, things such as roofs and blacktops and heating and cooling and plumbing and all of our buildings that need to be addressed that will get taken care of. We're respecting the investment in your investment in our schools. And that's because we've compressed our costs through extensive due diligence. We work with the facilities committee, to work with our state representative, not asking the community for more than what we need. We're not building a Taj Mahal. We're not building 7 classrooms when we only need 6. We're building exactly what we feel the district needs. The $600,000 cultural facilities grant opens the building up to our community partners to build their programming and make this an asset that the whole community can be proud of. Again, 8.9 mils equals approximately $26 per 100,000 of appraised value. So my first job when I was in 7th or 8th grade was as a grocery bagger at Missoula's, which is where Heinen's is going into now in the shopping plaza in Chagrin. And my middle school was the intermediate school. And I have very fond memories of changing after school and walking to my job. And I thought it was really a special, unique thing for a student to be able to access the town and feel like they've grown up and give people confidence. And it did a lot for me, and it did a lot for my friends that did the same thing that I was doing. And having this building remain where it is really important to our kids. There's not a lot that can be taught in a school book that builds confidence or builds character or builds independence. But having the ability to access the community, to be a community partner, and giving our students that freedom to walk to school, I think does a lot for people's confidence. And it's really important that kids continue to have that opportunity going forward. With that, I would like to open it up for any questions that people might have. I know I've given you a lot of data to absorb, but if there's anything that we can answer that I didn't cover, we have a school board member here that would be happy to jump in as well.